All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Kevin, and I'm really excited. We are returning with Time Warp again. And welcome, everyone, to the special presentation here on the Fandom Podcast Network for Time Warp 1982, the movies and pop culture 40 years later. And this is part one. We're going to cover the movies and pop culture of 1982 for January and February. And in this special edition of Time Warp, we're going to cover the year in movies all over in 1982. This is what we're excited about. They're all 40 years old. All of the special events are 40 years old, and we're going to get into that all this year in this multi-episode production of Time Warp. And of course, over the last few years, we have celebrated the 80s and the 90s, and we're back here in the 80s again. I'm really excited about this. And there's a lot of fantastic stuff to discover and rediscover in 1982. First of all, I can't do this alone. I got to bring some friends of mine into the show. And of course, I'd like to let's bring in Lacee Aderhold. Lacee, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. Really good. We're talking 1982. You excited?
I am. I thought about doing my Flock of Seagulls hairstyle, but I feel like that's a little bit later.
Oh, there's always time for that. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, well, this is, I'm going to bring in my other guest here, but of course, this is part one of 82. And we're talking about the month of January and February of 1982. And it's not the most exciting 2 months, but there's some very interesting things that do happen. But I can't do this without my brother from another mother. And of course, my fellow co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network. And that is Mr. Kyle Hoyer. What's up, buddy?
Well, I'm sitting here in the hot tub time machine, and I don't think I'm going to get it out because I might or might not have pants on.
Please have some trunks on. At least.
I put some extra chlorine in before I got in. So.
All right. Well, guys, here we are, 1982. Excited? What do you think, Kyle? What's going on in your mind?
Excited, but when Lacey kind of brought it up, this part interesting, but we're not getting to the meat of the bone of 82. Let's be honest, but we got some interesting things, including a film that I think has a very unique place in history.
Okay, yeah. So Lacey alluded to what you were talking about before we started this, that this first group of movies, it was kind of tough not because necessarily the movies were tough, but it was tough finding them.
I'm actually going to go with both on that. It was tough to find them, but the ones that I did find were rough to get through. Some of them were hard to get through. But I'm just excited because 1982, I'm going to turn 9. It's going to be great. I'm so excited.
Okay.
7.
All right.
7.
Yes. Yes.
I was 7 in 82. So
you were 7. Okay. Gotcha. I was 11 going on to 12, depending on the year. So yeah. And I will bring up again later, but one of my biggest fandoms started in 1982, and that was the G.I. Joe Real American Heroine. So I was really excited about that. And that happened actually 40 years ago this month that we're talking right now, which is in March. So I'm really excited about that. So, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. But I wanted to ask you guys, so, we did 1981 last year. And was there anything that you did kind of go back and watch regarding the last episode, which was 81 part 6 of November and December? And I wanted to ask you, Lacey, did you go back and watch? Was there anything that you pulled out of that you had to go back and watch in 81 and revisit before?
I did, but I'm so unprepared. I didn't realize that was going to be a question at the beginning, and now I have to go look and see what they were.
Okay. All right, that's fine. It's been a while, so that's okay. So then I'll go first. So the movie Reds, directed by Warren Beatty, that was 3 hours and 15 minutes. You were kind enough to supply a way for me to watch it. Got about 40 minutes into it. I think I fell asleep.
Hey, Kevin.
Hold on. But I do have it playing in the background right now. Kind of getting an idea of what's happening, but it was tough to watch. Kyle?
Well, I'm just wondering, you because you have this nice thing here. You mean that movie?
That movie right there, Reds.
What I actually I did a little hunting for this. I got maybe 15 minutes in, and I don't know if it's me or because it's tax season or because of the movie itself. Great cure for insomnia.
Okay. I don't want to go all into it. You did a job talking about it the last time, Lacee. But the one movie that you did see, I think, Lacee, I forgot I had it on DVD until after the show, and I ended up watching it. And you may remember this movie, The Professional.
Yes.
The French kind of James Bond, and it was entertaining. It was very Bondy, like a lot of beautiful women in it, a lot of action, that really weird, like late 70s, early fake blood that was used overseas. They couldn't quite get the blood thing right, and it looked really weird.
It was like with water in it, kind of.
Yes, exactly. But quick comment on this movie, Lacee.
It's one of those ones where you kind of have to watch it to get it, but I thought it was very, very, very well done. Like, it's hard to, like, it really is kind of hard to describe without giving things away. Some things are good, some things are not so great.
Is it okay to spoil the ending?
I don't. Like, that's the thing. Like, you gotta decide how far you're gonna go with this. I'm not looking to mess up anybody's day.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but the ending totally caught me off guard. So I'm going to say it was fun to watch. Just think of a French type of, version of Bond, and I actually enjoyed it.
Jacques Bond.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, Lacee, if you think of something later,
On Golden Pond is the one that I went back and watched.
What'd you think of On Golden Pond? What'd you think?
Well, I knew I had seen it a million times, like way back in the day, but I hadn't watched it in a while. It was good. It was a slice of life drama. Like, it was actually drama, but it was good. It was it's fast paced. I like most
for the pop culture as well, which is the music and the news, because everything's 40 years old in 1982 to now. So I mean, it's worth revisiting, and there's a lot of stuff that people will recognize because a lot of blockbusters did come out during this year. But there's a lot of films that I discovered that just like I didn't realize that was a thing, and it came out. So that's what we want to do for you guys, even though we haven't seen all the movies we're talking about. Maybe we will after we talk about them. So enjoy the journey with us. So again, 1982 movie and pop culture 40 years later. This is part one, the months of January and February. But first, let's take a step back into 1982. Let's fuel up that DeLorean, and the one with the flux capacitor, and slingshot around the sun aboard that captured Klingon bird of prey. There's also that blue police box, phone booth kind of thing. Also, Kyle, we got that quantum leap accelerator. That's kind of new. Do we need to worry about that?
That doesn't. The returning aspect of that, it doesn't work quite so well.
Okay. Then let's just mention our favorite one here. Then as you alluded to earlier, let's take a dip in that hot tub time machine and travel back to 1981. Where we're going to remind you what was happening in pop culture, sports, politics, television, and of course, the movies of 1982. Or Kyle.
Just ignore the Mai Tai I might ignore the Mai Tai I might have spilled in the hot tub time machine. Just
But let's do the Wayne's World thing real quick, right, guys? Right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
All right, automatically get us to the 90s.
I know, right? All right, guys, 1982. Let's check this out right here. All right, I got this little sheet up here. And, of course, president was Ronald Reagan. The first class stamp was 20 cents. We've got another one here for you. Let's do this one right here. 20 cents. I think it's now 55, 60 cents right now for a stamp. This is where it really hurts. Gas is going up a lot right now, guys, here in 2022. $1.13. That was the average gas. $1.13.
No, Kevin, the one on here that's painful is actually a movie ticket.
Movie ticket, yes. $2.94. Oh my God, yes. All right, guys, let's get into some more fun here. Okay, so other thing too, real quick, the cost of an average car was about almost $8,000. Think about that right now. Car prices 2022 going way up as well. Way up as well. Yes, Lacey.
I bought a new car last Memorial Day. I was talking to a friend who works in as a car dealer, and he said that my car's actually gone up by $6,000. It hasn't lost value; it's appreciated in value for the first time, like ever.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah.
It's happening a lot right now.
Yeah.
It is crazy. It is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit of world national news here, guys. In January 1st, Eddie Murphy makes his first appearance on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in 1982. In January 11th through the 17th, a brutal cold snap ends temperatures to an all-time record lows in dozens of cities throughout the Midwestern United States. Kyle, were you still in Alaska then, or did you jump to Florida by then?
I was very much in Alaska still then, so that was
okay.
Whatever.
So it's like that all the
laughing at you. We were just laughing at everybody down there. Oh, your poor babies, you're so cold.
We had an airplane incident here. January 13th, shortly after takeoff, Air Florida Flight 90 crashes into Washington, D.C.'s 14th Street Bridge and falls into the Potomac River, killing 78. 5 survive. And on the same day, a Washington Metro train derails in the north, killing 3. The system's first fatal accident. Oof. Bad day for travel there. And January 28th, United States United States Army Brigadier General James L. Dozier is rescued by Italian anti-terrorism Nucleo Operato Central the NOCS force after being held captive for 42 days by the Red Brigades. And for you true crime enthusiasts here, February 20th in Atlanta, the Atlanta murders between 1979 and 81, Wayne Williams is convicted of murdering 2 children and is sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. You grew up in the in that area, didn't you, Lacey?
Yeah. And there was suspected that there were like 18 or 20.
Yeah. They couldn't pin a lot on him.
They could only get him for 2. But now actually the justice oh gosh, I know I'm going to get it wrong, but the folks that investigate crimes after the fact to make sure that it's actually
the cold case guys, yes.
Yeah, the cold case guys. They're saying that there's actually like irrefutable evidence that he did not do it. So now they're going back and looking into it because there might still be a person out there.
Ah, geez.
Not to mention he lost like how many 40 years?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still alive, but yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to get in some technology here because this is very important for 1982 here. And I'm going to share a picture by the way, for you guys that are listening and not watching, make sure you check out the YouTube version of this later because we're going to be showing pictures of all the movie posters and some other news stuff here as well, including this picture here.
Hey,
Time
Kevin?
Magazine. Yes, Kyle.
I'm sorry. I mean, if I drop out, it's just because I have an Adobe Flash update kicking in as we speak.
Oh, you really wanted to talk about that, didn't you?
I just had to get
Go
that
ahead.
joke in. Well, no,
Go
it's
ahead.
just February
You don't
28th.
just say that and drop it. You got to explain yourself.
February 28th, Adobe Systems is founded in the United States, and now every computer is embedded with Adobe Flash and Adobe Reader.
You're right. That is a little important. So yes.
And so if you don't know how to use it, you can just click on Clippy and he'll help you out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, instead of doing the Time, Man of the Year or Woman of the Year, Time did Machine of the Year. The computer moves in. And I got a picture here of that Time magazine. And that's very important because as it says here, the Time magazine alters its annual tradition of naming Man of the Year, choosing instead to name the personal computer its Machine of the Year, introducing the theme. And basically, this was the computer boom. They were starting to come everywhere. Lacey, do you remember when you guys had a computer in the house?
Yeah, my dad was always very tech forward. I remember in 8th grade, so that would have been about 3 or 4 years later. I was already like I got like all the best marks in my 8th grade computer class because we had a computer at home for 5 or 6 years.
About what year would you say?
As soon as it was available on the market, my dad would get a hold of everything he could.
Wow.
Yeah, he was
so like 82 basically then.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
We had like the old dot matrix printers. Like it was. I remember the big thing was when he set up the computer. It was whether or not we wanted, like the first computer we got. It was whether or not we wanted the monitor to be red or green, blinking arrow.
Gotcha.
We got to decide, or orange or green. We got to decide whether or not we wanted the cursor to be orange or green.
What about you, Kyle?
Would you like to play a nice game of chess? The first computer I ever messed with was an Apple II computer that was at a friend's house and also in school. The first computer we actually ever owned was the Apple IIc, which, if you remember, the Apple IIc was advertised as the first portable computer. And what they had, how it was portable, was you had the keyboard and the computer was all one piece. And then you could buy a portable monitor that fit on top of it, but you carry it around. It literally had a handle on the back, and you would carry it around like a briefcase.
Yes. In other words, this was the first computer that fit onto a desk instead of into a warehouse. Goodness gracious.
Well, guys, my first computer was this one right here, the Commodore 64, we were one of the last people to get computers, I guess, on our block. And I didn't have that spiffy monitor that you see right there. I had a black and white little, and I still have that TV, a little small, like 13-inch TV. That was my monitor. But I did have that disk drive there. And of course the famous keyboard. And then I had one Atari stick controller that I could stick in there and play video games. And that's mostly what I did with it. There was a friend of mine in the neighborhood that was able to like copy games onto floppy disks. And that's how I played a lot of those games. So, Kyle, did you get yourself one of these?
I did not have a Commodore 64. I had a friend who had one. And the thing I will always remember about Commodores was you could kill somebody with the keyboard, because that thing was thick and heavy.
What about you, Lacey?
You know what? I honestly don't remember what kind it was. I was 9 years old. I was like 8 or 9 years old. So it was kind of like, oh, look, there's a new toy, but there wasn't anything on it. Like my dad he got it for work. He got it for, so it wasn't like he had all the games and stuff. So it wasn't something that I, as a child, would be interested in seeing, other than like that first time where it was like, look, we got a computer, and me going, cool. Oh, that's boring. And then walking away.
I got it as a gift from my grandparents, and it apparently when they first came out, I got mine a little bit later, not in 82. I want to say closer to like mid 80s, maybe. And this one sold for $595. Comes with 64K of RAM, 64 KB of RAM. But it was I still have the keyboard and the actual computer itself. The keyboard is just so cool looking. But we did have some other things going on here, guys. Let me show you here. We had, remember this one? We had the Atari 5200. We had that one there. It was kind of cool.
Bump your brakes. I must talk about the Atari 5200. I owned an Atari 5200. I actually saved up for a year with $2 allowance a week to get an Atari 5200. And what it was so great about the Atari 5200, it actually had an adapter you could put in the slot, and you could put this adapter in and play all the old 2600 cartridges with it.
Nice.
But here is the key thing for the Atari 5200. It actually has a place in movie history. The movie Cloak and Dagger. The game cartridge is an Atari 5200 game cartridge. And those things were big. They were big game cartridges. But the bad thing about the 5200, it had that like almost like an Intellivision controller with the keypad and everything like that. But it had these rubber buttons on the side, and they would, after so long, they would kind of melt and stick. So you push it, and it would get stuck in the side of the controller.
Right. Well, we also had the Air Force shoe by Nike with the Velcro top, which probably inspired Marty McFly's futuristic shoes. We also, as you had is mentioned briefly as well, Lacey, we had the dot matrix printer also come out in '82. Kyle?
Hey, I just question for either of you. Did you yourselves or have any friends who ever got in trouble because they would rip off all the dot matrix spool feed and then you couldn't use the paper and your parents would just go bonkers at you?
Yes. Yep. Busted. I think Lacey's busted there.
But it was in school though. It was just so perfect. Like you could
82 also introduced some new toys for warfare. And we have the Barrett M82 sniper rifle, usually 50 caliber. And these were very popular in movies soon after, Kyle. But I think the movie I first remember seeing this gun in was in Navy SEALs. I might have seen it in something else, but remember Navy SEALs?
Yep.
I want to say it was
the sniper.
Oh gosh.
Michael Biehn.
No, not Michael Biehn. It was his buddy from Aliens. Passed away. Paxton. Bill Paxton played God. This is God, and he was the sniper, and he used the special lens, for heat seeking or whatever.
Wasn't
thermal?
Wasn't this gun also used in RoboCop when he?
Yes, it was.
Takes out Ed 209.
Yes, it was. Yeah, a souped up version of it. Yes.
Yeah.
So, one of the last thing is the Beta Cam came out as well, and the cassette tapes for it, they came out as well. So we had that. All right, guys, let's get into some toys here real quick. And Kyle, I'm pretty sure you had this one.
I'm soaking in it right now. Without the hot tub time machine, it's Barbie's bubble bath.
Yes, Mattel. $9.99. Here is a bubbly bath hand shower that really works with a vanity 2. Press one pump to fill the tub, another to spray the water from the hand shower, including tub, faucet, and mirror. I just want to say right now, a friend of mine's sister had this. I might have thrown a couple of Star Wars and G.I. Joe figures in there. Because it really worked.
Anything that was Barbie oriented in my home, because my sister was younger, she was 5 years younger. Anything Barbie oriented, Barbie house, Barbie car, Barbie whatever. Within minutes, there was a guinea pig in it.
Guinea pig.
Home, there was a guinea pig, there was a gerbil, there was a hamster. We had snakes, we had all the animals, and anything that was small enough to fit in the actual Barbie situations. I was not a fan of dolls because it just seemed like I have an animal here. Why can't we why wouldn't we be interactive?
Speaking of dolls, we got more here for you. We've got the we've got the Bye Bye Diapers doll here by Mattel, $16.99. She's 13.5 inches tall, and you can feed her from her very own bottle. She wets too. Feed her with her bottle, then pull her string and sit her on the potty as she claps her hands. Kind of like what you do, Kyle, when you go to the bathroom, you clap your hands, right?
No, that's a you thing. I kind of it's more of you clap your hands before there's a certain movement that has a smell to it. I'm just saying.
All right, this toy I had not this cool looking version of it, but I had versions of this toy, and that is the Lincoln Log set. This one was retailed for $29.99. This classic toy offered chances for kids to make log buildings, frontier town sets. I had not all of the cool accessories, but I did have my Lincoln Logs. You guys have your logs too?
Oh, not only did I have Lincoln Logs, there was many a Lincoln Log city and fort that fell victim to the eternal battles between Cobra and G.I. Joe and the Autobots and the Decepticons.
Lacey, did you have the Lincoln Logs?
I found that gerbils and guinea pigs can actually eat, because remember, back then they were actually wood. I mean, it was actually wood. Yeah. So they would be happy to be in the little buildings that I would create, but then they would just eat them. They would just So we learned very quickly that we should not put animals inside the Lincoln Log cities.
All right. Next, we have, last but not least, the Dial a Story talking books, priced at $9.88 each. Now youngsters can have their favorite stories read to them. Just open up the book, turn the telephone dial, and listen to the 5-minute story, complete with sound effects. And of course, the Three Bears, Peter Rabbit, Night Before Christmas, and a bunch of others, including Mother Goose, were part of this. I remember these. I don't remember getting into them personally. So, were these part of your collection, anyone, guys? Or are they mostly for your younger siblings? Maybe, I don't know.
I vaguely remember my friend's little brother had one, and it was because he was like 3 or something, right? But it ended up getting mangled. And so he would just kind of like walk, because it was like a little disc that had the little, but you could just push the buttons on it and tell you a story. And so he would just walk around like hitting the button, but he'd wait for like one sentence and then he'd hit the same button over again. So it was like, if you've never wanted to throttle a 3-year-old, I'll tell you
all
what,
right.
one of those.
82 had some music. Let's get into some music news here. Casey and the Sunshine Band, 1982, January. The band's Harry Wayne Casey is seriously injured in an automobile accident in Miami. One of the most famous moments in rock history, January 20th, Ozzy Osbourne bites the head off a live bat thrown to him during a performance in Des Moines, Iowa. He thought it was rubber, so he thought it was fake. We'll see. We don't know. Maybe. January 21st, B.B. King donates his personal record collection, which includes nearly 7,000 rare blues records, to the University of Mississippi Center for the Study of Southern Culture. That's awesome. And January 22nd, Tommy Tucker writes high heel sneakers, and then he dies of carbon monoxide poisoning sustained while finishing floors in his room. Or actually, it was carbon
Tetrachloride.
Poisoning. Oh, wow. Didn't realize that. Say that again. Tetrachloride.
Carbon tetrachloride.
Tetrachloride poisoning. I didn't know that was a thing. Anyway, February 82, a 300-pound gravestone from the grave of Leonard Skinner singer Ronnie Van Zant is stolen from an Orange Park, Florida cemetery. Police find the gravestone 2 weeks later in a dry riverbed. Oh, man. And guess what? Ozzy was not done yet. February 19th, he's arrested after urinating on the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas, and he was asked to never return. But I think he made amends and he eventually did return to it. But it was quite a long time. So, and February 20th, Pat Benatar marries her guitarist Neil Giraldo on the Hawaiian island of Maui. And February 24th, the 24th annual Grammy Awards were presented in Los Angeles, hosted by Quincy Jones, who wins a total of 5 awards. John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Double Fantasy, the final album released by Lennon in his lifetime, wins Album of the Year, while Kim Carnes' Betty Davis Eyes wins both Record of the Year and Song of the Year. And Sheena Easton, my girl, wins Best New Artist.
Yep.
Sheena Easton, Kyle. Sheena Easton.
There's nothing that needs to be said. You just Easton and we're good.
All right. We like to talk about the top 10 music songs of 1982 during these time warps, but we do it in segments. So I'm going to read through the first part here. I'm going to get your guys' quick responses here on this. This is song 100 through 81. At 100 is Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks, Through the Years by Kenny Rogers, Arthur's Theme, Best That You Can Do by Christopher Cross, Going Down by Greg Gildry, Working for the Weekend by Loverboy, Do I Do by Stevie Wonder, Waiting on a Friend by the Rolling Stones, What's Forever For by Michael Murphy, Man on Your Mind by Little River Band, Kids in America by Kim Wilde, Hot in the City by Billy Idol, Should I Do It? The Pointer Sisters, Oh Pretty Woman by Van Halen, Vacation by the Go-Go's, Mirror Mirror by Diana Ross, Take My Heart, You Can Have It If You Want It by Kool and the Gang, Make a Move on Me by Olivia Newton-John, Any Day Now by Ronnie Millsap, Get Down on It by Kool and the Gang, and at 81, I Keep Forgetting Every Time You're Near by Michael McDonald. Lacey, what are some of your favorite songs on this list?
Billy Idol, Can Do No Wrong. I'd say that Arthur's Theme, Best That You Can Do. I remember that vividly. Loved it. And I mean, Arthur's one of my favorites anyway. And then Kids in America. I remember that being something that, adults would be like, turn that down.
Kids in that was a great like,
the point of the song, Mom.
Yeah, that was kind of like a, getting back at parents song. So yeah. Anything else?
Yeah.
All right.
No, that's pretty much it.
Kyle, what about you, sir? What's some of your favorites on this list?
Well, through the years with Kenny Rogers stands out because my dad was a huge Kenny Rogers fan, so I heard that in the car a lot. The Go-Go's, got to get a vacation, have to get away. That's high up there. You mentioned Kids in America, yeah, that one stands out. Get Down on It, Kool and the Gang. You got Get Down on It. It's just always in your head. And this was
hold on, Kyle. I think Lacey just gave us a face palm. I think she just gave us a face palm. So I'm just saying.
I don't.
I was thinking, how many bars do they have to sing before we have to pay for this?
I know, right?
And of course, if you ever get stuck between the moon and New York City, this was like the peak of Christopher Cross years.
Yeah, definitely. My favorites on here, I'm going to start with "Working for the Weekend" by Loverboy. That song was your blue collar working guy song, and it had such a great intro, great chorus, just a great hook. Just recently, over the last several years, 5 or 6 years, found out that they were from Canada. Had no idea. All these years, no idea. One of my favorite songs, and it's mostly because of the longer extended version on Vital Idol, is "Hot in the City" by Billy Idol. Freaking love that song. Love that album. One of my favorite albums of all time. And I got to go with you on "Kids in America" with Kim Wilde as well. Lacey, I love that song. Okay, let's get into the other thing that's very popular, television. Now, we have the top-rated TV shows of 1982. Instead of teasing all of them at once, we're going to kind of space it out and pick a few here. And I'm going to start at number 30. We have 2 programs that are actually tied for the 30th spot. And I know that one of you guys, or actually I know that 2 of you guys probably really love this one, and that's Dukes of Hazzard. Lacey, I know you're a big Dukes of Hazzard fan.
I had a Dukes of Hazzard birthday cake when I was like 5. And that was like back when you could put a Confederate flag on a little 5-year-old girl's birthday cake and nobody would be like, what? Yeah, it was the General Lee. I was obsessed with the car.
Yeah, of course. And Kyle, I'm sure there might have been something else you might have been obsessed with.
Yeah, later on in life. Yeah, I was only 7 at the time, so the car was kind of the big thing. But as we got into other seasons of Dukes of Hazzard, but come on, this is one of those shows that it's so dated with everything, but it's still fun. If you just take it for what it is, you just enjoy it, have fun with it. It's a piece of American television history, whether you want to admit to it or not. But it's the General Lee. You can't go wrong with a bright orange Dodge Charger.
With the exception of season 6. Sorry.
Yeah. No Coy and Vance. When you got Coy and Vance, that doesn't exist.
I wasn't the biggest fan of this show. I did watch it from time to time. There's just something about it that was just, I didn't quite, I don't know, my fandom for it didn't quite grab it, I guess. I don't know. But I did appreciate it for what it was. But the next show that I did want to talk about, though, that was big with our family was Real People. And I was actually a big fan of this show with my parents. We would sit down and watch it. And after That's Incredible in 80, it resurfaced with the same format as Real People. And Mad Magazine summed it up as in their parody show, That's Real Incredible People, which was kind of funny. But this was in what made this series fun to watch was not necessarily the people they were covering and the extraordinary things that he did. It was the funny repertoire between the host, Sarah Purcell, Skip Stevenson, Byron Allen, Fred Willard, Jimmy Breslin. I mean, it had a bunch of other guys here that would come in and do stuff, but Sarah Purcell was the best. I remember kind of crushing on her a little bit. So did my dad. And Skip Stevenson was kind of like the dorky guy. Did you guys ever watch this, Lacey?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Wow.
No,
you, Kyle?
No idea.
I remember Sarah Purcell, but I don't necessarily. I remember a little bit of the show Real People, but I remember Sarah Purcell more than anything. I remember that name. She was around on a lot of things back in that time frame.
The other shows that we had was Little House, A New Beginning, Little House on a Prairie. We also had Happy Days.
Kind of at the point where Franz jumps the shark?
Not yet. Point? Not yet. I don't think so. 82. I don't know, actually. That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I just remember still during this time, we were watching it in the 70s as well, late 70s, because it started in 76 or 77, I think. But I don't know if anyone wants to look that up.
It was the 5th season in 1977.
Was the Jump the Shark?
Yeah, the idiom "jump the shark" coined in 1985 by John Hine in response to a 1977 episode from the 5th season of Happy Days.
So this must be towards the end of the run, then, is what I'm guessing. So yeah.
Well, didn't they do like that little like miniature revival?
Well, they had Joni Leschachi.
Yeah, this is probably at the point where Ron Howard wasn't on the show anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But the other things that were very popular, and this was in the 27th and 26th slot, is that ABC and CBS had their movies of the week. So ABC had their Sunday night movie of the week, and CBS had the Tuesday night, and I think also a Thursday night movie of the week. And this was a big deal. These were specific movies that were made for these time slots in most cases. Sometimes it would run popular theater run movies you'd see on those nights, but they would actually make movies for these time slots. And this was like primo family viewing. Lacey, do you remember doing this?
I didn't do this, but I remember in my class for television, they talked about how because Sunday and Tuesday nights were the two worst nights of the week for ratings, they decided that the reason for that was because families were having like family night. And so that's why they decided to like invest in that situation and think, after church and after, you have your dinner, then you sit down and have your movie with the family, or the same thing on Tuesday night, because it was the fewest numbers.
Right. What about you, Kyle?
What I remember is ABC Sunday night specifically, because you would usually have The Wonderful World of Disney and then the ABC Sunday night movie.
I remember Wonderful World of Disney.
Well, one of the high-rated movies for the ABC one was The Wild Women of Chastity Gulch, 1982 American made-for-television Western romantic comedy directed by Philip Leacock, starring Priscilla Barnes from Three's Company, Lee Horsley, Joan Collins, Donny Osmond, Morgan Brittany, and Liesl Wetchell from Facts of Life.
Facts of Life.
And guess what? Produced by Aaron Spelling. So there you go.
There you go. If it was the 80s, it was produced by Aaron Spelling.
Yeah. And then we had other movies on CBS here too during 82. We had Lou L'Amour's The Shadow Riders, which we'll be covering later. Take Your Best Shot, Johnny Belinda, Not in Front of Your Children, Country Gold, I Was a Mail Order Bride. I think that was Valerie Bertinelli, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so some good stuff there. It was destination television for the family. We also had a made-for-TV movie miniseries as well that came out. The Elephant Man premiered January 4th, 1982 movie. And this was a taped version of the stage play, of course, about the deformed 19th century London man and how he managed to triumph over his disease. We also had some TV debuting during this time of the year. January 7th, Fame on NBC premiered for the first time. I'm gonna live forever. I'm sorry, how's that go again?
Yeah, no, it's gonna happen again. That's the first song I ever learned how to play on piano.
We also had King's Crossing on NBC starting on January 16th. I don't remember this series at all. And then One of the Boys, also on January 23rd. But most importantly here, February 1st, Late Night with David Letterman starts. In the first episode of the late night talk show, David Letterman chats with his seemingly drunk Bill Murray and then joins Don Mr. Wizard Herbert in an experiment with air compression. Kyle, you remember Mr. Wizard?
Oh, I remember. Mr. Wizard was part of my daily watching on Nickelodeon.
I remember drunk Bill Murray. I'm kidding. I don't remember.
I just go back.
I remember Bill Murray. I love Bill Murray.
You can go back and check that out. By the way, One of the Boys only lasted for a little bit. It starred Mickey Rooney, young Dana Carvey, and a young Nathan Lane, by the way. It's an energetic grandpa is invited to move out of his retirement home and into the cool pad of his college student grandson and his roommate. Dana Carvey, Nathan Lane, playing the college roommates. There you go.
Wow. Okay.
TV shows that were ending this during this time of the year was Behind the Screen, Dark Room, and Late Night with Tom Snyder, which started originally in 1973, but I think he came back though. And this is the point. This is the point of the show that makes us feel old, guys. People that were born in 1982 in the months of January and February. We had Eddie Redmayne, English actor, of course, Gabby Hoffman, Jodie Sweetin. Jodie frickin' Sweetin from Full House. Daveed Diggs, Alice Eve, and from Game of Thrones, and also the first woman, I think, to officially kiss Captain America, Natalie Dormer.
He's still my heart.
All right, guys, we have some celebrities that have their film debuts in 1982. Kirstie Alley in Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. Antonio Banderas in Labyrinth of Passion. Christine Baranski, who's riding high right now on The Gilded Age, by the way. She's awesome in that series. She did Soup for One. Ellen Barkin in Diner. Nicolas Cage in Fast Times at Richmond High. And Glenn Close in The World According to Garp. All right. All right, guys, let's get into the main episode here, guys. We are talking Time Warp 1982, the movie pop culture 40 years later, and we're getting into January and February. But let's have a little fun. All right, back to the movies here, guys. Now, when I saw this movie, I knew I had to try and find it. It's a little tough to find, but I did find it. And that, of course, is Timerider, a maverick motorbike racer wanders into a top secret time travel research test site, which unintentionally teleports him to the mid 1800s and ends up having to fight violent outlaws for his survival. Directed by William Deere, stars Fred Ward, Belinda Bauer, and Peter Coyote as the villain. And I should say that it's called Timerider, The Adventure of Lyle Swan. That was the original title of this. And I'm going to bring up an interesting thing about that. And it's interesting here too. Lyle Swan goes back in time, November 5th, 1877. The same time travel arrival date that was used in Back to the Future in 85, November 5th, 1955. And in Time After Time, 1979. And they went back to November 5th, 1979. So both Fred Ward and Peter Coyote appeared together in the previous year in 81 in the movie called Southern Comfort. In that movie, Ward's character was called Reese, the same as Coyote's character in Timerider. Now, Kyle, I need to ask you something here. Mm-hmm. This is when the 80s were trying to make Fred Ward an action star. And we have Timerider, The Adventures of Lyle Swan. And then later we have what?
Would that be a little Remo?
The Adventures, or was it the Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins?
Yeah, I believe that's what it was.
So who has seen this film? Lacey? Kyle?
No.
I it's been a long time, but I have seen this film, and I actually have a fun story about this film. Kevin.
Okay, Kyle, you go first.
So this film is a typical 80s fair film. I'm going to be honest with you. My favorite Fred Ward film is still Tremors. That's just always going to be there. But how I learned about this film was actually Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon had a show. Yes, Nickelodeon had a show that covered movies from 1982 to 1986 that was hosted by the one and only Leonard Nimoy. The name of the show was Standby, Lights, Camera, Action. And it covered a lot of things. But two of the things that stood out were they did a feature about Timerider, and they also did a feature about the movie Krull. But the Timerider one, for whatever reason, just stood out to me because I think they were talking a lot about the stunt work done in it with the motorcycle. But yeah, it made me want to go see this movie. I think I finally saw it on video probably about a year after it came out, and it was about what I expected it to be, 80s B-movie sci-fi.
Well, I had never seen it or heard of it before until I was doing the research for this, and I was like, I gotta find the video for this, and I I was determined to find like an actual copy of the DVD that's out of print, and some of them are kind of expensive, but I actually found this one at a decent price, and I was happy I bought it because I actually really did enjoy the film. I want to hold up the DVD here for you guys watching it on YouTube here. I also got the poster up, but it's got a really cool poster picture of the of him riding the motorcycle, and then you see like the guys on horses, kind of like, you know, inset his character there. Lacey, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'm very confused. Okay, so just because I haven't seen it, he goes. The motorcycle comes with him into the past. If I'm
Yes,
time writer, right? So because motorcycles have an average of 2.5 to 4 gallons of gas, how did that work after he rode 30?
It's funny you say that because that was one of the things they took a little liberty from, I guess.
I mean, because
yeah, especially towards the end, you know, unfortunately the motorcycle doesn't come back in time with him. But something else comes back in time to save him. That is I don't want to spoil it because I don't know if you should spoil it.
I do intend to watch this at some point.
Okay, the motorcycle gets destroyed in that action scene, but a helicopter comes back to help him while the bad guys are trying to kill him. Yes.
Of course it does.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's funny too because you see him racing ahead of time, and then he accidentally gets off course, and he ends up going into this experiment, and he and his motorcycle, of course, go in there. But it's a fun adventure romp. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. So Kyle, you give it a thumbs up?
Oh yeah, it's a fun atypical 80s film. Fred Ward is Fred Ward. He's always fun. I'd actually like to see a remake of this film. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they could do a fun remake of this, maybe on a streaming service or something like that.
Yeah.
Give it a little bit more modern twist, and whether they make it more of a comedy or try to do it more seriously, it would work either way.
Poor Fred Ward, though. He just didn't quite get that leading man part. He was always kind of like the other guy, or he was the father, or the co-star. Like, what's that?
Yeah, he was like one of my favorite like father roles was Prince of Pennsylvania, where he played Keanu Reeves' dad.
Yeah. I liked him in what was it? My Secret Admirer. He played the tough dad cop, and he was so funny. All right, guys. The next one I could not find. I wanted to see it because I became a big fan of her on and off role in the Friends TV series, and that, of course, is Mrs. Bing, I guess. I don't remember her first name, but
yeah, Nora, I think, was her first name in Friends.
Yes, and the movie that I am speaking of course, is, hold on, I get it here. Let's bring this up here. Add to stream. There we go. The Seduction with Morgan Fairchild, and she played Chandler Bing Small. But in this one, though, she has a little problem. Yeah, with some a guy stalking her, basically, and this starred Morgan Fairchild, Michael Sarrazin, and Vince Edwards. And Kyle, I just want to say that I'm a big fan of Morgan Fairchild, always have been. Didn't get a chance to see this. Anyone seen this? Anyone?
I have not seen this, but I've got to talk about Morgan Fairchild for a second, Kevin.
Okay, before you do, I just want to mention one of the early cycles of 80 thrillers with a voyeuristic, stalking, peeping Tom killer. That's what this one was. This was very popular. This, of course, included the movies like The Fan in 81, Eyewitness in 81, Body Double in 84, Visiting Hours in 82, and Eyes of a Stranger also in 1981. And director David Schmoller originally wanted Teresa Russell for the lead role. But Kyle, go ahead. Let's talk some Morgan Fairchild.
Okay, first of all, one of the most beautiful women in the world during the 1980s and 90s. I'm sorry. And I have to do something, and my dad will kill me, but if the friends list had existed in the 80s, Morgan Fairchild would have been number one on my dad's friends list.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, she's a anchor woman by the name of Jamie Douglas, and she's stalked by a photographer who's obsessed with her and wants to win her affections at any cost. Lacey, sound intriguing to you? Or you're like,
It was one of those things. I mean, the cover looks like one of those traditional 80s covers where it's supposed to look like some sort of like sultry, like Skinamax kind of deal. But at the same time, they give you the blinds in the background, which is 100% going to be a stalker situation. So I wanted to see it, but I kept, like I said, the only DVD I could find was a bootleg, and it was like $87, and I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, speaking of Skinamax, Teresa Russell definitely was on Skinamax quite a bit. She was originally one of the lead role. The next movie that we have here is called Shoot the Moon. And this was about a mother of four is abandoned by her husband for a younger woman. Husband, wife, and children struggle to survive the seemingly inevitable divorce. And this is starring Albert Finney, Diane Keaton, and Karen Allen. Director is Alan Parker. Diane Keaton just broken up with Warren Beatty, her co-star in Reds. Probably fell asleep on that one. As such, she was able to draw on that experience for this role and even gave notes to writer Bo Goldman and director Alan Parker. They weren't initially thrilled by this, but later conceded that the character was enriched by Keaton's participation in ways they had never thought of. The film Shoot the Moon title is derived from the card game known as Hearts, where a scoring technique in the game is also known as shooting the moon. That's where you try to grab all the hearts, if I remember correctly there. Anyone seen this film, Lacey?
No, and the thing is, I love Albert Finney, and I will watch anything that he's in. And again, I saw this, and I was like, what? That's amazing. And it's got Dana, is it Gould? No, Dana Hill.
Dana Hill.
Before she was in Vacation, I'm assuming, or was that after? I don't know. But I really wanted to see it. But again, the only DVD copy I could find was like $300.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if I want to see this. This kind of falls along almost, I don't know. It's got a good cast. I do like Albert Finney, though. I'm a fan of his as well. But I don't know
just the picture on the front gives it kind of that, like, 8 is enough. Yours, Mine, and Ours kind of feel to it. So it looks like it's going to be like that like sweet drama with the comedy elements in it. It looks like they're going to have like problems sharing the bathroom and like it looks like a sweet comedy instead of like drama.
Peter Weller is in it as well. Young
Right
Peter Weller thing there. So yeah, I know Kyle hasn't seen this, so I think we can move along, right, Kyle?
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet.
All right, guys. The next film we have here is Vice Squad. And this was one of the films I really wanted to see first. And I did. But the trouble was, okay, so here's a picture. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see the original poster that came out for this and the original DVD release. And it's about a single mother prostitute who goes by the name Princess. Finds herself forced to work undercover for the police in order to apprehend a homicidal, misogynistic pimp named Ramrod who will do anything to not get arrested. Directed by Gary Sherman, who had done a horror film in 81 that Aaron and I talked about in the 81 horror film podcast that we did. But this stars Susan Hubley, Gary Swanson, and Wings Hauser. And Gary Swanson, this is kind of like his only main film role, but I wanted to share the Blu-ray release that I could have bought at a cheaper price, but I didn't like the cover. Let me show it to you. Here it is. This shows the villain played by Wings Hauser, and it's just a very weird kind of cheesy cover, a little too cartoony. Lacey?
Just for the record, I did buy this copy, and when you open it up, if you pull it out, you can flip it around, and it's the original black cover.
I wish I would have known that.
Yeah, I mean, had I known that was a perk for your purchasing, rubric, I would have mentioned it, but I did not know that was why.
See, I bought the original DVD release and has the kind of shiny cover to it. Yeah, and I wanted to kind of stick with the original one here, but I found a good price for it. And it did. But let's talk about this real quick, Lacey. I know you saw it. This was a tough watch. And this is a film that basically is about the Vice Squad in Hollywood and how dirty and bad and all the criminal element and how it was not a great place to be. And when this movie was submitted for classification in the United Kingdom to the British Board of Film Classification, the board requested that 6 minutes from this picture be deleted for this to garner an X classification. Lacey, thoughts?
You get like 3.5 minutes into it before someone is brutally raped with a coat hanger. I think that they were right.
Yeah.
I think that, like, you know, you can't, like, the whole like watching this movie made me go, all right, so what you're saying is that in 1981, a writer sat down and thought, how many ways can I murder and beat the crap out of a woman without getting in trouble? Wait a minute, I can just make a movie about it and it'll be fine. Like, I can't, there's so much wrong with this movie. Like, there's so much.
It's pretty brutal.
Like,
it is.
And like, she's butchered. And then, like, she ends up in the hospital in the first 10 minutes. And then she dies from, like, legitimately, she dies from being, like, scrambled from the bottom up, literally. And then her best friend is, like thrown into the morgue with her and, like, has her face shoved down right in front of her face, like, where she's all.
You're talking about the blonde woman, right?
Yeah.
The blonde woman actually was played by Nina Blackwell, who people remember. She was one of the early MTV VJs, and she was an actress, and this was one of the roles that she did there.
Well, it was just, it was a lot. And the thing is that, like, as far as, like, the Blu-ray itself, it's the film. It's got 2 commentaries on it, one by the director and someone else, and then one by just the director. It's got hours of interviews, like the interview with the director, the interview with, like, and these are like 1.5-hour interviews. So there's probably 25 hours of interviews and conversations. And at no point, now I haven't gotten through all of them because wow, but at no point did anybody go, yeah, this was back in the times or anything like that. It was just, they were so very serious about talking about, like, you know, how this was, how this was shot or whatever. And at no time does anyone say, yeah, this was 20 years ago and we can beat the crap out of a lady. And it was like the way things were. And this is where the term boys will be boys comes from. Wow.
Yeah, it's a gritty portrayal of that time. It is a tough watch. It was filmed in and around Hollywood too, which I remember being at parts of during that time visiting. Didn't spend the nights there, that's for sure. But it was tough. Wings Hauser, who plays the villain, he actually sings the vocal track on the song Neon Slime, which is featured over the opening and closing titles. And to play Princess Susan Hubley, she spent nights researching the lives of prostitutes and the locations they frequent. And when this movie was being made, lead actor Susan Hubley and Kurt Russell were getting a divorce. They had met on the 77 film, 77, I think it was, the Elvis film that Kurt Russell did. And they have a child together as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah. All right, guys. Next film that we have here is The Border. And here's the poster for it here, guys. Jack Nicholson, Harvey Keitel, Warren Oates, Valerie Perrine. A corrupt border agent decides to clean up his act when an impoverished woman's baby is put up for sale on the black market. Director Tony Richardson. The film title refers to the U.S.-Mexican border, specifically the border between Texas and Mexico around El Paso and the Rio Grande region, which is where the picture's set. Apparently, Jack Nicholson once said of all the pictures he's been in, this was his best film he's ever made. El Padilla Carrillo's performance in this movie in the role of Clara was originally intended to be without dialogue. The movie was the first American film of El Padilla and was the first of several Latin American related movies made by Hollywood in the 80s in which Carrillo appeared. Others being Beyond the Limit in 83, Under Fire in 83, and Salvador in 1986. And Capilla's part in the latter, having been said, has been very similar to her role in this movie. Lacey, have you seen this film?
No, I looked at the poster and I read the blurb, and that is 100% not a movie I'm going to watch.
I saw the trailer, and it looked like it's a tough watch. I'll be honest with you. But by the way, the character that I was just referring to, she was the girl Anna in Predator, the woman that survived. the girl that got out of there. So, yeah, I watched the trailer. Kyle, did you watch the trailer? Did you check this at all?
I watched the trailer. This looks like it's a very heavy watch. El Padilla is also in Mayans MC currently.
Oh, really? The new show? Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Interesting thing. I just want to bring this up because Hollywood has a tendency to visit the U.S.-Mexican border in cycles, and this was, I think, one of the points. But it reminds me of another show that dealt with the U.S.-Mexican border. That was on FX a few years back. The Bridge.
Oh, yes, The Bridge. Yeah.
Which ran 2 seasons, was a very good show and very intense and dealt with a lot of things on the U.S.-Mexican border as well. But this is Hollywood seems to want to about every 10 to 15 years, Hollywood goes through a cycle where they do 2 or 3 movies or TV shows related to this topic. It's always been a fascination of mine to see how that happens on that particular issue.
Good point. Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break from our time warp and let you know what other great podcasts are here on the Fandom Podcast Network, and we will continue with February of 1982. Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. We'd like to continue to feed your ears by inviting you to listen to these other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. It starts with our flagship show, Culture Clash, discussing the latest in entertainment pop culture. Bloody Kings, Immortals Take Notice, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theaters, where we celebrate our favorite movies. Time Warp, the Fandom Flashback podcast discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie and TV pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Union Federation, our Star Trek and Orville show. Hair Metal, the 80s and early 90s rock metal podcast. Type 40, our show covering the time-traveling Doctor Who universe with host Dan Hadley. Lethal Mullet, an 80s and 90s action film podcast with host Adam P. O'Brien. Also check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast with hosts Scott, Derek, and Nathan. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast, a deep dive into the final frontier with host Mark Newbold and Adam P. O'Brien. And check out our newest shows, The Fandom Show, our monthly Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube exclusive show about the month's hottest topics in fandom, and the FPN True Believers MCU podcast, discussing the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the related Marvel television and streaming MCU universe, including the connections to the original Marvel comics. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on several platforms. Please subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel to receive notifications of new podcast episodes and live events. You can enjoy all of the Fandom Podcast Network audio podcasts on our master feed at fpnet.podbean.com. The Fandom Podcast Network is on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast and iTunes. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. You can also find the Fandom Podcast Network on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network and on Twitter at FanPod Network. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom. All right, guys, welcome back to Time Warp 1982, Part 1, discussing February and January and February. But right now we're going into February. And the first movie we're going to talk about, I remember seeing this film, I think I want to say on television when it released later on, but this was news. I remember the news, and this one's called Night Crossing. Night Crossing, a true tale about 2 men planning to escape from communist East Germany in a hot air balloon, but only if they can take their families with them. Directed by Delbert Mann, starring John Hurt, Jane Alexander, Doug McKeon. The real-life Night Crossing took just 28 minutes. The date of the Night Crossing was September 15th. That was on my birthday, 1979. This movie was released 3 years after the real-life events of an escape by 2 families by hot air balloon from East Germany to West Germany. Walt Disney Pictures flew the 2 real-life families who made the Night Crossing to meet the actors who portrayed them in the film. At the film, this was considered the most famous film ever made, or at the time, was the most famous film that was ever made by Walt Disney Pictures. Kyle, did you see this film?
I believe I have. It's just, I'm like you. I think I remember seeing it on TV at some point. I'm kind of blown away because I never knew that it was Walt Disney Pictures on this film.
Didn't either. Yeah. What about you, Lacey? Did you see this?
No, I looked at the trailer and I just kind of went, it's there, but it's not there. Like, I feel like I must have, because there are things I recognize, but I don't remember enough about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I remember watching the trailer for this because I couldn't find it anywhere to stream it. But it just kind of showed a clip from the film, at least one of the trailers that I watched. And I like John Hurt. I'm thinking this is probably one of the films he doesn't die in. Because there was some... What's that?
One of the 3 movies he doesn't die in out of like the 300 movies he did. Yeah.
I think him and Danny Trejo have the most on-screen deaths of all time, if I remember correctly. I think John Hurt was up at the top, if I remember correctly, reading that trivia somewhere.
I think Sean Bean beats Danny Trejo.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right there. So, yeah. All right, guys. The next film we're going to talk about here, and I did not know about this film, but I want to feel like it hit TV soon, and that is called Personal Best. And this is a drama, the intertwined lives and loves of 3 highly ranked athletes striving for the national team. Chris bounces between the beds of male coach Terry and her female friend competitor and role model Tony. Chris, of course, being played by Mariel Hemingway, Scott Glenn and Patrice Donnelly co-star. Mariel Hemingway trained for more than a year in preparation for her role as this pentathlete in this film. The film was part of a breakthrough cycle of mainstream Hollywood studio movies featuring gay, bisexual partnerships and drag characters. Others include Making Love in 82, Cruising in 1980, Victor Victoria in 82, Tootsie in 82, and Partners in 82. Both Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert placed Personal Best on their list of the 10 best films of 1982. I've not seen this film. Kind of interested. I tried to see if it was streaming somewhere. Couldn't find it. Anyone else seen this?
Lacey? I tried to find it, and again, it was like $70 for a VHS copy, and I don't even have a VCR. So
yeah,
I was like,
did you say $70 for a VHS copy? Oh my god,
$70 for a VHS copy, and I was just like, nah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. What about you, Kyle? Did you see this at all?
I have not seen this, and actually, to be honest with you, I had not heard of this film until we started doing the research for this particular podcast. And
join the club.
Yeah.
I wonder though if this was because of the timing, because it was 1982, and you had said, who did you say produced this? It was HBO? No, who did you say?
I didn't say for this one. The previous movie was Walt Disney Pictures.
Oh no, I meant you gave a list of like Cruising and the other movies that.
About the other films. There was Making Love, Cruising, Victor Victoria, Tootsie, and Partners.
Right. So I feel like this was probably at a time. I mean, because it did have certain elements in it. It's one of those things that you probably would have seen at the theater, but it would have had to have been released on HBO. It wouldn't have gone to network. Probably. At the time. It would have had to have been like drastically edited. And so, and of course, again, I was 9, so I didn't know what a bisexual was. Like I was like 9 years old. I don't know what that is. Anybody's allowed to hold hands in my book. I don't know anything more than that. And so I just don't think that it would have even been on my radar.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next film I really, really want to see, and Kyle, I know you have something to say about this, but I just want to say for the record, I ordered this on eBay, and this movie was tough to find. I only found like a part of a trailer, and I really wanted to see it after the trailer. I finally found it on eBay. I had to talk a guy down and made some offers, and it was supposed to arrive like 3 or 4 days ago. Never got it. I'm hoping to get it, but it's going to be late, so I'm going to have to report back to you guys. But Kyle, you know a little bit something about this film, and it's The Amateur. I'm going to get your opinions here in a second, but I want to read the poster. And if you're watching this on YouTube, this is in the day of time where posters had a lot of information said on the poster in addition to the image of the poster. And the poster says, in a world of professional assassins, there is no room for an amateur. At 29, Charles Heller was a mathematician without equal. This is all in the poster, guys. At the CIA, he was a computer expert without peer. But when terrorists murdered the most important woman in his life, he becomes an assassin without experience. To avenge your death, the CIA trained him, briefed him, armed him, and then they abandoned him. The first 11 minutes will absolutely shock you. The last 11 minutes will rivet you to your seat. All of that's on the freaking poster. Kyle, it's on this film, and what do you know of it?
This is one of my parents' favorite films for a very long time. They had recorded it off of, I believe, HBO, had it on a VHS tape. The VHS tape finally just went belly up as VHS tapes will be known to do at times. But let me put it this way. It was one of the few movies in our household that had its own dedicated videotape. So
no double feature?
Not double featured. This movie is a very, very good film, and I'm really surprised that it's not out there. And I'm thinking maybe the main reason for this might be more rights issues than anything like that. This was a very good movie, a very intense film, and it's actually the first film I remember this kind of genre of somebody like going after, and completely untrained, going after revenge that I remember seeing. Probably the closest comparison I can think of to a film that's come close to being what this was, and a lot of people have compared this particular film to it. And Kevin, we were talking about it before, that movie with American Assassin with Dylan O'Brien and Michael Keaton.
Yes.
Yes. Say that sounds just like American Assassin.
The concept here, though, and why they talk about just the first 11 minutes will shock you, is that he sees his wife killed on national television.
Yeah, the terrorists take over an embassy or something, I think, if I remember correctly.
And so that just sets him off. And like I said, what he goes through and the experiences he goes through all of this, it's very riveting and has an 80s feel to it, but it's a very good film.
Well, this is based on a novel, and the action looked very gritty from the trailer that I saw, and I realized, that Mario Kazar and Andrew Vagina were producers. Remember those guys from all those films that you would see? So the film storyline is similar to also 3 Days of the Condor from 1975, and one of two spy films that director Charles Girault made in 81. The other was Condor Man. Remember Condor Man? This one was released, I think, overseas in 81, but didn't hit the U.S. until early 82, which is why we're talking about it in these first 2 months. And the movie was nominated for 10 Genies Academy Award, the Canadian Academy Awards, including Best Picture, but failed to win one award. I will be getting back to you guys on this because I can't wait to watch this. And it stars John Savage, who I remember being the villain in Dark Angel, starring Jessica Alba. He was in that, and he's also been a character actor in a lot, but I can't wait to revisit this. So do you have any interest in seeing this at all, Lacey?
I really would love to see it. Like I said, I looked for it and it was so ridiculously expensive. I was just like, I'll
these DVDs that were like out of print were like pushing towards $100. It was crazy. I didn't spend that much on mine. I luckily got it down to around the $30 range, but I really wanted to see it, and I think it's become a collectible as well. So yeah. All right, guys. The next movie I just saw for the first time ever, Quest for Fire. And this was director Jean-Jacques Arnaud. Stars Everett McGill, Ron Perlman, Nicholas Kaji, and Ray Dong Chung. Ron Perlman's film debut. Both Ron Perlman and Everett McGill suffered frostbite. Luckily, they were able to both heal completely, despite the working conditions. They both enjoyed making the film. And one of the principal reasons why Ray Dong Chung was cast as the character of Aika was because she was completely comfortable with being nude. She remained nude on the set most of the time between scenes while in full body makeup to stay in character. And the woolly mammoths in this film were played by circus elephants. And for those of you that don't know, Quest for Fire is basically about early man trying to understand fire and how to make it, and realizing that it's kind of at this time during early man, it was a point of power as well, if you knew how to use it and to keep it, and of course how to create more. Lacey, have you seen Quest for Fire?
I have not. I will say this though, if I looked like Ray Dong Chung, I would probably be naked all the time too. She's a stunning person. Like, she's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Kyle, have you seen Quest for Fire?
I have seen Quest for Fire. In fact, it was one of those movies that was on the HBO rounds for a long time in the 80s. There's also a great quote unquote Hollywood rumor about this film that maybe a particular scene between Ron Perlman and Ray Dong Chong was a little more real than what they would care to admit to.
Well, I think it was another character, maybe. I don't, yeah, because the love interest was with the other character, Everett
That's right.
McGill. The Everett McGill. I know what scene you're talking about. What's funny, okay, I got to talk about this role because I had never seen it before, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like the film. I knew it won an award, Academy Award for makeup, and for the Academy Awards. And I talked to my fiance Erin, and she loved this film. She's seen it several times. Of course, she's a big fan of Ron Perlman as well. But I found it on DVD, and I decided to watch it. And I was about like maybe 30 minutes in. Didn't know if I was gonna keep watching it.
It's one you got to stick with.
Yes, but as the characters are going through their perils of surviving, I actually started getting invested in them and what was happening. And there's a couple of scenes where Everett Gill, and by the way, I was wondering, who is Everett Gill? Who's Everett Gill? The only other time I really remember Everett Gill was in Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood. He was the kind of jerk general or commander guy that was in charge of him. That was more of a paper pusher, like army guy. And that's all where I really remember him. But there's a couple of love scenes between him, his character, and Ray Don Chong. And the second one kind of reminds me a little bit of that scene in Game of Thrones between Daenerys and what's his name?
Khal Drogo?
Yes, Khal Drogo. Where she kind of says, stop treating me like an animal. And let's kind of do the love thing instead. And that kind of reminds me of that a little bit, though. But I actually enjoyed it. The cinematography was great. They shot it in like Canada, Scotland, one of the countries in Africa too. I forget. It was, I actually got invested. I actually kind of enjoyed it. So, yeah, there we go.
Cool.
All right. The next film we have here is Love, or otherwise Making Love. Okay. And this is about, okay. So here's another poster. If you guys are, watching this, this is another movie poster that puts everything written on the poster. And it says love in big letters. And then it says, after 8 years of marriage, Claire had everything, a loving husband and an exciting career. Suddenly, Claire's whole world is threatened when she learns that her husband is involved in a love affair, but not with another woman. Making Love is the sensual story of a courageous husband and wife who deal honestly with their problem. There's more to love than making love. Starring Michael Otonkin, Kate Jackson, and Harry Hamlin. Again, guys, this is one of those posters where all of that information is on the poster in addition to a scene of the main cast.
It's one of those posters where they just legit put the novelization on the poster.
Yeah. And, it says, and it gets into a little bit more where it says a successful young LA doctor. And it talks about how a swinging LA novelist walks into their life, directed by Arthur Hiller. And it's funny because even in the trivia says one of the film's movie posters features a long descriptive preamble that told the public in a subtle way that the film was about homosexual love affairs between two men. It read after 8 years of marriage, and it goes on to say it. And the picture was considered one of the most controversial films within the Hollywood film industry in '82. This movie had also been considered the first Hollywood studio movie that openly and directly marketed a feature film about homosexuality to the general public. The film was part of a breakthrough cycle of mainstream Hollywood movie features that were featuring gay partnerships. And those films that I mentioned earlier, Partners, Cruising, Victor, Victoria, Tootsie, and Personal Best, were all about, gay partnerships or drag characters. Lacey, have you seen this film?
I haven't. And again, I looked it up. I wanted to watch it. I love Harry Hamlin. I love like I love the idea of this movie. That's something that people go through. Like, people get married, and especially back then in the 80s when it like wasn't okay. So you were expected to like marry and have children and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then as people started realizing what they truly wanted and needed, they would, have to navigate this situation where they have to tell someone that they've been married to for however long that not only do I not like you, not want to be with you, but I don't want to be with your gender, that kind of thing. And so I think that it's a really interesting concept to see one of the first films to portray this. And I really want to see it just because I want to see how it holds up to today, so, but again, it was like $70 and I was just like, oh, what are you doing to me here? Like, you'd think that Harry Hamlin and Kate, what is her name? I can't,
Kate Jackson.
Yeah, Kate Jackson. You'd think that the two of them were kind of stars enough that would be kind of especially you'd think that it would be like a cult hit at this point.
Right.
But the thing is that if it's not a cult hit right now, that means it may not have sold well to people who are in the homosexual LGBT, people like reading the way the poster was written. It's kind of edgy. It's kind of dismissive almost in certain kind of way. So it just makes me wonder how well it was received.
That's a good point. That's an excellent point. Kyle, have you seen this?
I have not seen this, but I want to weigh on the topic because I think too, when you look back at the time frame this was made, and we talk about the other movies that had come out kind of dealing with these topics, I think Hollywood and the social census at the time basically chose Tootsie and Victor Victoria because they felt they were the safest of these films to kind of market and put out there. And so I think a lot of these films like Personal Best and this film got pushed to the back and almost into that realm of movie oblivion in a way, because again, Victor Victoria and Tootsie felt like they were the ones that were chosen to be the safer ones of this topic.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it also feels like, sometimes you watch a film and you can tell, that a film about a woman was written by a man. Like sometimes you can watch a movie and be like, okay, that person knows how to write women, or that person knows how to write, a real LGBT relationship. And it's not something that just like some random straight person goes, oh, this must be how they do that.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
All right. The next film we have is called One from the Heart. And this guy who directed this is kind of important. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. There you go. A couple has a fight after living together 5 years in Las Vegas. They go out and celebrate 4th of July, each with a new partner. Breakup. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Stars Frederick Forrest, Terry Garr, and Raul Julia. The extraordinary cost of the production of this film would lead to director Francis Ford Coppola's declaring for bankruptcy. Originally intended as a small film after an enormous cost, pressures and production problems of Apocalypse Now in 1979, One from the Heart rapidly ballooned from a project budget of $2 million to over $25 million. Coppola had stated that the film he made during the rest of the 1980s and most of the 90s, such as The Outsiders, The Cotton Club, Godfather Part 3, Jack, The Rainmaker, were all done to pay off debts incurred by the production of One from the Heart. Ouch. Debut theatrical feature film actress Rebecca De Mornay, who appears as an understudy. Here, Harry Dean Stanton and Rebecca De Mornay were a real-life couple at the time of filming. They lived together for about 2.5 years. Did not know that. Interesting. And it's interesting, too. The poster has a bunch of praise on this, and it didn't help sell it. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reviews of how awesome this movie is. And people from David Anson from Newsweek, Michael Ventura from LA Weekly, saying, how awesome it is. But apparently, Coppola was paying for this film for 20 years because of the debt that he had there. Lacey, did you see this film?
I didn't. And the thing, like the front of it, the poster kind of has that, body heat or maybe like it almost looks like a noir situation, just because the way the poster is kind of done. So it's not until you actually read the synopsis where you're like, oh, okay, this isn't necessarily going to be like a mystery. This is like, that kind of gives you a different look, because the poster is a mostly naked woman laying underneath a fully dressed man, basically.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, how posters were supposed to be in the 1980s. But it gives you a different, feel for the poster altogether. So I was like, well, I mean, again, I tried to find it. $60 later, I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Natasha Kinski was also in it, and songs and music are by Tom Waits. Oh, and a song by Crystal Gale. Remember Crystal Gale? Country singer with the very, very, very long hair. So yeah, Kyle, have you seen this?
I have not seen this. The one that kind of I hadn't heard of on the Francis Ford Coppola collection until we talked about this podcast. So
yeah, it's kind of forgotten, to be honest with you, and I guess it has not stood the test of time. So there we go. All right, guys. Next film here is the sequel to Death Wish, and we have Bronson is loose again in Death Wish 2. Architect Paul Kersey once again becomes a vigilante when he tries to find 5 street punks who murdered his daughter and housekeeper, this time on the dark streets of Los Angeles. Directed by Michael Winner. Co-stars Jill Ireland and Vincent Gardenia. And according to Michael Winner's biography, Charles Bronson's alcoholic brother often visited the set to borrow money. Bronson was careful not to give him too much in case someone might kill him for it. He was later found dead in a cheap hotel room, having been stabbed in the butt.
Stabbed in the butt, you say?
The buttocks, as they say here. Wow.
Okay. All
right. Charles Bronson was 61 years old when he appeared in this film. So I'm thinking, Kyle, maybe Liam Neeson still got a ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, Bronson, what's amazing to me is he did how many more of these after this film?
He did at least 2 more, right? I think there was Death Wish 4, I think.
Yeah, I want to say to Death Wish 4. I mean, the first one was such a cult classic, and then this was, let's make more money off of this. Charles Bronson is kind of a weird career for me because it seems like he really didn't hit it big until much later in life. I know he did some Westerns and stuff like that, but like for us, he hit it so big with these Death Wish films and these kind of like canon type films.
Yeah, the 70 film Cold Sweat he did. That kind of was one of his main films. I know he'd been guest starring in a bunch of other films as well, but yeah.
How old was he in this? 61?
61 years old. Yeah.
Because Liam Neeson is 69 right now.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay.
Now the question though is like, so Death Wish, the original, was his wife was raped and murdered. So he goes after it. Now the second one is the daughter and the housekeeper. So was like the third one his, terrier, and the fourth one was like his neighbor's parrot? Like what like
I don't remember who he goes death wishing for again. It's been a while. I remember seeing Death Wish. I remember seeing all of them. It's just they've kind of all kind of, they all kind of.
I need to know how many people. This might be the most unlucky person ever.
The film was shot on location and depicted actual sleazy areas of the city. 20 off-duty men of the Los Angeles Police Department were hired to protect the film cast and crew from potential trouble. And the producers wanted Isaac Hayes to compose the music. Director Michael Werner refused and brought in Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page, who is at the same time was his next-door neighbor. So there you go. All right.
Okay.
All right, next film, guys, I also saw for the first time, and that is Swamp Thing. Science transformed him into a monster. Love changed him even more. After a violent incident with a special chemical, a research scientist is turned into a swamp plant monster. Directed by Wes Craven, written by Wes Craven, stars Louis Jourdan, Adrienne Barbeau, and Ray Wise. The Swamp Thing's costume led actor Dick Durock to take frequent spontaneous breaks due to heat exhaustion. Ben Bates, who plays the villainous creature later in the film, actually flat out fainted during one scene. when initially released on DVD in the United States, the international version of the movie containing scenes of nudity not seen in U.S. theaters was accidentally transferred instead of the U.S. version after complaints from viewers the DVD was recalled. Who the hell is complaining? I don't know. Kyle, your thoughts on the Swamp Thing?
So Swamp Thing has got such a bizarre history. It's a bizarre comic character who has had some of the weirdest comic book runs ever done. I mean, but some of that are also very critically acclaimed. But at the time of this movie is one of those movies that is the definition of a cult classic, because with Adrian Barbeau, directed by Wes Craven, this movie always kind of had people's attention. And what's funny is this movie got a real interesting resurgence in the late 80s and early 90s because of one of the mix-up on the DVD release and some other things. It actually that resurgence led to the USA Network actually creating a new Swamp Thing TV series, which I believe ran for 2, maybe 3 seasons. But what's interesting with this film is that they were really thinking this was going to be something that could turn into a kind of a franchise. And this is one of those films that, it came out, and it was one at a time when nobody could do a comic book movie other than Superman. I mean, just it wasn't going to be done properly, and a lot of people had high hopes for this, and it probably set comic book movies back a good 10 years until probably 89 Batman. Even though you had the Superman films in between, but this is at the point where the Superman films were even going a little bit off the rails. Here you still, but yeah, this movie set back production of comic book films for a good while.
That's too bad. I always kind of wanted to see it, but for this podcast, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll get a Blu-ray version of it, and I did. And this does include the international version, and the nudity is basic. It's Adrian Barbeau in the swamp taking a little bath. That's what it is basically. So I enjoyed the campiness, but you really kind of care about Mr. Swamp Thing. You feel sad for him, and Dick Durock was forced into the role of the Swamp Thing by necessity. He had been brought on board the project as a stuntman, but the filmmakers found that it had been impossible to go from Durock to Ray Wise's character, who technically turned into the Swamp Thing, who had been cast as Alec Holland and Swamp Thing's former self, and back again because the two men looked so different in Swamp Thing's makeup. Durock also portrayed the agent that was leaving the island when Charlie and Cable first land in the plane. So you see him out of costume briefly. But Dick Durock did return later on to actually play the character again in The Return of the Swamp Thing and the series that you mentioned as well, Kyle. Lacey, have you seen this film?
I have. I watched it this morning, actually.
Really? Give us your thoughts. What'd you think?
Brush up. I remember this when I watched it the first time a million years ago, and I've watched it a million times. I mean, that was one of those ones during the 80s where it was on, I don't know, maybe like TBS or something, because it was just kind of like one of those things. It was a filler movie, and they would play it over and over again. I remember my favorite character in that movie is Jude, the kid at the grocery store or the convenience store, because he's so funny, but he's not being funny. I mean, he's just like everything he says is exactly what I would say in every situation that he was in. Like she's like, "Don't worry," and he's like, "You better say that for like next time you say that. Don't be like hiding behind the desk." Right? Like everything he says is hilarious. The rest of the movie was fairly dated. I mean, it's very much, one of the first lines of the movie is, "Oh, great, they sent us a woman." Really? Y'all, what? Again, the 80s was a very, like, boy-heavy, like, masculine, whatever. That's fine. I found that there were some very strange things that when written, it was obvious that they got to like page 87 and went, well, we have to figure out a reason for this. And so they went back and just like dropped a line here or like a shot here. Like the guy who gets the guy who shrinks, in order to make him timid, they went back and like, had him put the necklace on a branch. Like there was no reason for him to do that at the time. Right. But that does lead to him being, timid and whatever. Like it would have made more sense if he had accidentally dropped it. or something like that. But it was just, there was some interesting writing happening with that film.
Yeah, no, I get you. It's definitely dated. I thought for the time though, the creature effects were pretty good.
Yeah.
What'd you think, Kyle?
For the time, yeah, they obviously don't hold up. But what's interesting is that a lot of people think this is a trauma film with some of the way the effects have aged through the years. Yeah. And a lot of people credit this film for actually helping keep trauma in the verbiage, because a lot of people thought this, because of Toxic Avenger, thought this was some kind of trauma type film.
Yep.
And helped keep it alive for a lot of years.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, we got one more for you before we close out here. And this was a movie I tried to find, couldn't find it either. I do want to see it out of curiosity here. And that is Barbarossa, the Outlaw, the Outcast, and the legend that is bigger than both of them. And this is starring Willie Nelson, Gary Busey. And it's a young cowboy who hooks up with a legendary outlaw, and before long, both are on the run from the law. And this is the first American film or American movie of Australian director Fred Gillespie. This was country and Western singer Willie Nelson's first ever Western movie. Willie Nelson had read only 2 pages of the film's screenplay when he decided he wanted to do the movie. Wilson exclaimed, "I want to be this guy, Barbarossa." And high temperatures in Texas had a scorching effect on the production, with a heat staying hot right into the evening. Shooting in such a remote location also meant there was no television, no air conditioning, and telephones, while the crew had to cram into rooms for their lodging. First of all, seeing Willie Nelson as the lead character, I think sounds fun. And you get kind of a young Gary Busey before he gets crazy, Kyle, I guess. What do you think?
Well, if you're going to add 2 and 2 together, he's hanging out with Willie. He might have gotten a strange, vein of a certain type of thing, and could have sent him on that path. You mean he might have
gotten a strange?
Yeah. strange strain. It could be all Willie Nelson who caused the crazy wonderfulness of Gary Busey now. Who knows?
Yeah, Lacey, this is one of those Westerns I have not seen being played anywhere. Did you have any luck finding this?
I found a copy on Amazon for $9.99 plus $3.99 shipping and handling, and I ordered it 2.5 months ago, and it is not here yet. So,
is it coming from Barbarossa?
I don't know. It might be. Yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, I'm so excited to hopefully, fingers crossed, but it still says order received. It just apparently it hasn't been put into an envelope yet. So
why do I have the feeling it's coming from China? I'm just
it's just, yep, that's how it is. So as soon as I get it, I will definitely, who knows how long it's going to take, but I'll let you know when I do, and we can visit back,
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, guys, before we close out here, there was some movies that we agreed to just kind of skip here. And we're going to let you guys watch them yourselves. And one of them, a few of them here are A Stranger is Watching, starring Kate Mulgrew, Rip Torn, and James Naughton. The other one is Butterfly, starring Stacy Keach, Pia Sedora, and Orson Welles. Controversial film, apparently. This one here is called The Beast Within. We're skipping this one because this will probably be covered on the horror version episode of 1982 that my soon-to-be wife, Erin, and I will be doing our own horror segment there. And also, we're going to be skipping Cannery Row. This stars Nick Nolte, Deborah Winger, and Audra Lindley. John Steinbeck's novel Cannery Row. I had to take a John Steinbeck course in high school, and it was very, very tough, I just want to say. The other one we'll be skipping is Missing, starring Jack Lemmon and Sissy Spacek. Now, if any of you guys have seen these films, feel free to let us know, but we had to kind of cut some stuff here to make time for the rest of the show here. So any comments real quick on the stuff that we are missing, Lacey?
No, I'm very happy that those are the ones that we kind of decided against. I am always one to say that I think that film as a medium is a way of escape. And when I escape, I want to escape into a world that's better than the one I'm in. So, going to like the Dust Bowl or, somewhere where there's some sort of crazy horror element, that's just not my jam. So.
Understood. Well, guys, we went through January and February, but the next episode, Time Warp 1982 Part 2, we'll be covering March and April. And here's some films that we are going to be discussing. Tease it with some pictures here with the posters. We've got Richard Pryor live on Sunset Strip. We have Parasite, Demi Moore's first film. We got the documentary, The Atomic Cafe. We got the dark black comedy Death Trap. And we got everyone's, growing up, got to see this one, Porkies. We also have Victor Victoria, the musical, the drama Cat People. And we also got Diner. We also got a little Chuck Norris action, Silent Rage, Adventures, I guess, film coming up next called The Sword and the Sorcerer, and Tag, the Assassination Game. Lacey, what are you excited about discussing?
Death Trap is one of my just absolute favorite films. Love it. Love everything about it. It just makes me happy. 100% does not fit that description I gave you of wanting to be in a better place when I escape, but that's one of the contradictions to the rule, I guess. I love Victor Victoria. Grew up watching that. Yes, fantastic. And then I can't remember. Oh, I want to see Tag, but I haven't been able to find it. It's like $170, and I was just like, what? Okay.
I think I found one, but I don't know how legit it is. But I'm interested in Death Trap, though. Actually, I think I found it on Macari, so I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Nice.
Kyle, any of these films you're looking forward to talking about?
There's a few interesting things here. Richard Pryor live on the Sunset Strip really kind of changed the game as far as stand-up comedy movies go. And we have
I'm going to have some interesting trivia about that because he actually performed 2 nights for that, and they had to take parts of each of those to make this special that went in the theater. So yeah.
You also have Porkies, which in my opinion kind of started the grand tradition of the American Pie style film.
And the fun thing about Porkies is that is where Alex Karras met his wife. Alex Karras being in Porkies and in Victor Victoria. That's kind of fun. And they later became a couple. They got married and they played George and Ma'am on Webster. They played Webster's adoptive parents.
Yep.
Wow.
They met on Porkies. Yeah.
2 more real quick, Kevin. Cat People, just because of the crazy Sean Young connection that movie has.
Is that Stephen King? Is that
no, I don't think that was Stephen King. And finally, The Sword and the Sorcerer, if not for no other reason, to this day, one of the craziest looking weapons and functionality weapons in the history of Hollywood films, and yet it is still considered one of the coolest weapons ever made.
I haven't seen this, but I'm going to make an effort to try and see it because I've just seen this video cassette tape or DVD hovering over my head for so many years, and I've never gotten down to watching it. So I'm excited for it. So yeah,
it's worth it just for the sword itself and the physics of how it works. You have to. Let me just put it this way: have a good conversation with your Blood of Kings co-host Lee Fillingsness about the sword and the sorcerer.
I will.
Yeah, it may be an interesting conversation.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and close out here. First of all, if you are listening to this podcast, make sure you please check out the YouTube version of this because we show all these posters and we show some cool pictures. A little bit of show and tell, a little bit different than we've done before Time Warp, right, Lacey?
So yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it because I'm able to go along with you instead of I'm used to switching back and forth and reading along and then coming back, which means that the people who are watching are just watching me go as you read instead of looking at them, which is,
Well, again, if you're listening, please make sure you subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel, and you'll get notifications for when these episodes drop, as well as all of our other shows. And we've been doing a lot more exclusive stuff for the YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out. And our master feed for all of our audio podcasts is fpnet.podbean.com. Fandom Podcast Network can stream and download also on that Podbean app. And the Fandom Podcast Network is on all major podcast platforms, which also include Apple Podcasts / iTunes. Join us on Facebook at Fandom Podcast Network. You can also email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Fandom Podcast Network is also on Instagram and Twitter. Kyle, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on social media at AKyleW on Twitter or on Instagram at AKyleFandom. And I have learned a very important lesson during this podcast, Kevin.
What is that, Kyle?
If you spin too long in the hot tub time machine, half your body ages one way and the other half ages another way. And it's a little weird. I'll just saying I won't go into any further detail, but
I just got a visual I can't get out of my head right now. Lacey, cleanse your palate here, your brain palate from that. And please tell us where we can find you on social media.
Oh, man. Yeah. I am everywhere on all the places at Lacey Pants.
Lacey Pants.
That's
all right.
me. Yeah.
My name is Kevin Reitzel. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. And there's two ways you can support us here on Time Warp. First of all, Apple Podcast, iTunes, or if you can leave a review for the Fandom Podcast Network on any audio podcast platform that you use. Just search Fandom Podcast Network, leave a review for Time Warp. We'd appreciate it. Also, a TeePublic store. The Fandom Podcast Network has a store there, and you can get Time Warp logos like my t-shirt that I have on right now. You can get that put on your favorite apparel. Lacey, thank you so much for coming on again. I always love doing these shows with you, and it's going to be fun for the next 2 months. I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. I'm digging it.
Kyle, as always, sir, we always learn something new doing these time warps, and you may not watch them all like I do, but you learn some stuff.
Oh, you definitely learn some stuff, and eventually I'm going to get some time to actually watch some of these films. I will get freedom from real life things, but you know what? It's always fun to talk about these movies, and a lot of these movies are movies I have seen, and it's just nice to have that memory refresher too, and be able to discuss them because it's interesting movie history.
Yeah, even though you don't get a chance to see them all, at least you know about them and you learn something about them. And if you're listening to this or watching this too, like I said, we're not here to watch all of these, but we are trying. And in some cases, like Lacey and I ordering some of these and not making it in time for the podcast. So we'll have to report on the next one about actually watching it. That's why, Kyle, I can't wait to watch the Amateur. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So
wait a minute. So what you're saying is when we revisit the year of 1982 and the year 2032, you might finally have these movies to watch?
Yes.
Oh, no.
This DVD is now 50 years old, I guess. So
but won't we be working on the movies of January and February of 1992 at that point?
Oh, but it's hard to pass up 50-year anniversary. That's all I'm saying.
Guys, thank you so much. And until next time, we will see you in 1982.